When the only constant in life is change, you need to be ready. This is the Man-Made Survival Show.
Hello everybody, my name is Jose Prado, Man-Made Survival, and I wanted to introduce to you my very first book, Preppers Secrete Cache. You can go to www.preppersecretcache.com, or you can click the link below and order it from there. But hurry, we only have a limited amount of copies that we're giving away for free. All we need your help with is the shipping. So again, my name is Jose Prado, Man-Made Survival, and remember, always ready. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Man-Made Survival Show. My name is Jose Prado, and this is the second part video of the food shortage video. On the first video, we talked about the things you need to prepare with and for, because the shortage is coming and it's already here. But we talked about how rice and flour can last a lot longer in Mylar bags than their original packaging. The other thing we talked about is how Africa has been affected by the swarms of locusts. The UN has also said that countries are starting to stockpile their own foods and stop exports of those essentials that they feel they would need if there was a food shortage that would affect the entire planet. And then lastly, what we talked about is how a FEMA document that had leaked out talked about how, in detail, how the entire produce and everything that's on the shelf would fly off the shelf if those companies did not, or the processors didn't have enough personal protective equipment that would protect the people, and eventually that will lead for them to shut down, which is the next headline. Fears for food supply chain as Tyson meat packaging plants in Iowa is closed due to coronavirus cluster, and truckers admit they are afraid to travel to New York epicenter. This is from the Daily Mail. Fears are mounting that the coronavirus pandemic could disrupt the American food supply chain after outbreaks interrupted work at meat processing plants, and truckers express fears of traveling to hotspots. The U.S. food supply chain is generally considered robust and well protected, with America producing enough domestically to feed its entire population. But disruptions in processing and distribution could cause temporary shortages of some items or higher prices on grocery store shelves. Tyson Foods was forced to suspend operations at pork processing plants in Columbus Junction, Iowa, this week, after more than 24 employees there tested positive for coronavirus. On Thursday, Smithfield Foods announced that it will close its processing plant near Sioux Falls, South Dakota, after state officials said that more than 80 employees have tested positive for coronavirus. Meanwhile, JBS USA, another major meat processor, has stopped operations at its beef plant in Southerton, Pennsylvania, due to sick employees there. The plant plans to reopen April 16 after 2 weeks. Cargill has also paused operations at its protein plant in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, where 900 people typically work. As farmers and food processors work to keep food available, the pandemic is also raising the concern about the distribution system, which relies heavily on truckers. Truck driver Josh Richards, who owns a fleet of three tractor trailer, told Yahoo Finance that the drivers who lease under his authority can be convinced to take a job that requires them to travel to New York City, the epicenter of the outbreak. Quote, "I mean, no one really wants to go there. Everyone's afraid of going there and being in a position where they actually contract the virus themselves," end quote, Richards said. So something that we have also talked about here in Man-Made Survival is how if the truckers stop working and they just don't want to deliver anymore, that's going to create more chaos, because the situation we find ourselves right now is that we have plenty food, right? Right now there's fields of thousands of tons of food just spoiling. So much so that they're saying that they will not, harvest it. They're just going to let it stay on the ground to be used as fertilizer for the next harvest, because the United States as a society, we depend so heavily on restaurants, fast food chains, and all these other places who are currently closed because they fear infection or spreading the infection, or because they simply have been told to lock down. Now, in a time where we have plenty, we are going to suffer shortages because we cannot get the food from the ground to the processors because they're closed. And not only that, if truckers don't want to take it, how is it going to get there? So that's how you're going to see a lot of shortages. So the next article I'm about to read to you, it kind of goes into depth on how the processors work and how much meat is processed out of these, and it gets put out throughout the United States. Now, I couldn't find any information or of where these people deliver, but if you live anywhere in these areas that they mentioned in the previous article, like Pennsylvania and others, South Dakota, then you're probably gonna face those shortages right off the bat because you're really close to those plants, right? So here's the next headline. It's going to be devastating. One of the country's largest pork processing facilities is closing. This from Breaking911.com. Smithfield Foods, Inc. announced today that its Sioux Falls, South Dakota facility will remain closed until further notice. The plant is one of the largest pork processing facilities in the U.S., representing 4 to 5% of U.S. pork production. It supplies nearly 130 million servings of food per week, or about 18 million servings per day, and employs 3,700 people. More than 550 independent family farmers supply the plant. Quote, the closure of this facility, combined with a growing list of other protein plants that have shuttered across our industry, is pushing our country perilously close to the edge in terms of our meat supply. It is impossible to keep our grocery stores stocked if our plants are not running. This facility closures will also have severe, perhaps disastrous, repercussions for many in the supply chain. First and foremost, our nation's livestock farmers. Those farmers have nowhere to send their animals, end quote, say Kenneth M. Sullivan, the President and Chief Executive Officer for Smithfield. So that should just blow your mind. 130 million servings per week, 18 million a day. All right. So of course we're gonna see, that the grocery stores are gonna have very little product, or maybe none at all, especially as this information becomes more mainstream. All right. So this is unprecedented because no one saw this coming, right? And we can see how fragile the system is. If this virus has showed us anything, is how fragile everything is in this society in the United States. Now, this disaster has been very slow, right? It's dragging out for weeks, for months now. If it was a sudden disaster like a nuclear strike, could you imagine how crazy things would be? Of course, all these places would shut down immediately, especially if we're under attack, right? So if we're seeing a lot of trouble just a few weeks into the pandemic, into the shutdowns, how much more would something bigger become? This is why you need to prepare. That's what we always say. Now, all of this shutdowns and meat processing plants and all these other places, not being able to put the farmer to the processor and the processor to the grocery store, is having a big effect on Amazon and all the other people who want to order online. And here's the next headline. Amazon puts new online grocery customers on waiting list amid surging demand. This from VentureBeat.com. And that one has a video from Reuters. Here it is.
Amid surging demand, Amazon said it will put all new online grocery customers on a wait list starting Monday and reduce shopping hours at some Whole Foods stores to prioritize online orders. For example, the Whole Foods at Bryant Park in New York City sent out an email saying it was temporarily closed to focus on internet-only customers. Many recent online shoppers have found they could not place orders due to a lack of available delivery slots. Amazon, which acquired Whole Foods in August 2017, is now leveraging its presence both online and in physical stores to handle high demand from consumers who are stuck eating at home.
You have people coughing and sneezing as you're walking.
Under pressure to do more to protect workers, Amazon recently added daily employee temperature checks and is supplying employees face masks and gloves. Over 50 Amazon fulfillment centers and several Whole Foods stores had confirmed COVID-19 cases, according to multiple reports.
All right, so you saw, right? You saw how even if you try to not go out there to use your, the online options, they just simply are not there because they don't have the spots available for you to be able to place your order and go pick it up. Now, of course, people are going to find other grocery stores to go to. They're not just going to depend on Amazon. But the point is that the increase has gone through the roof, right? Because all these restaurants are closed. Now, all the schools are closed. So now a lot of people are forced to eat at home and cook. So as we see more and more people putting the strain on the food supply chain, even though there's plenty that they're dumping, hundreds and hundreds of gallons of milk because they cannot distribute to schools and other places. Now, there's going to be a shortage, possibly in the grocery stores. So if things continue the way they're going, it's going to go that way. So something that I want to show you next is in Michigan, people are tired of the lockdown. All right, I don't know how long Michigan has been in lockdown, but it's probably been less than a month. All right, and they're already ready to get back to work because they said they have to pay their bills, they have to put food on the table, and they just want to get back to work. And they said that they'll take their precautions and they don't want to be, they don't want to have their liberties trampled upon. So in the next video I'm going to show you, and here it is.
Operation Gridlock is underway and we are in the middle of it. Take a look. We've got 3 lanes of traffic right now on Capitol. In front of the Capitol, people have lined up in their cars. They've come from all over the state, upset with the governor and the stay-at-home order. They say that they're ready for this order to be lifted. They want to get back to work. They want to get back to doing things that they love, like fishing and golfing. We saw a couple people who had boats. And take a look, the number of people goes down the block. People have been honking and gathering since about 9 o'clock this morning. The official protest just getting underway here. And basically what people are saying when we stop and talk to them is that they think that people are smart enough to make their own decisions to stay safe during this coronavirus outbreak without being told what to do. Ma'am, can you tell me, why did you come out here today?
I'm a state representative from the 102nd District, and I'm just here to support my people. I have a lot of constituents down here right now.
And what are your constituents telling you?
Pardon?
What are your constituents telling you?
They want to go back to work. If they can't access the website to get the benefits, then they want to go back to work. And nobody's suggesting we just go willy-nilly go back to work. We're recommending we adapt to the size of federal guidelines and do it safely.
Yeah, that is the message that we keep hearing over and over from different people. We talked to a landscaper from our area. We talked to a woman who does detailing in the Hudsonville area. All of them without work right now. They say they need to put food on the table. They've got to pay their bills. And they want the governor to reopen their businesses, allow people to make safe decisions. And that's why they all gather here today, to make those voices heard. We're going to throw it back to to you for now. Reporting live on Capitol Avenue, Heather Walker, News 8.
Okay, Heather, stay safe out there. Let's go to News 8's Leon Hendricks, also out there. He has boots on the ground at the state capitol. Leon, what are you seeing?
Another incredible sight in this surreal ordeal as we battle this coronavirus pandemic. The Capitol steps, the scene of a protest. The whole idea here was that folks would stay in their car and participate in this gridlock, but we've seen a lot of folks who are saying they're not doing that. They're here, they're on the Capitol steps, staging a more traditional protest here in front of the Capitol building in Lansing. I want to show you one of the larger displays here, a huge sign that is out in the Capitol lawn. It says, "Security without liberty is called prison." An analogy they're using here to the situation that we have at present with the coronavirus lockdown. We're going to walk up here and
All right, so you have seen everyone's reaction to all of this, right? So how could this be prevented? It just simply cannot, right? If the government wants to keep the system closed, the economy closed, what are they going to do? What are the citizens going to do? And if the citizens are going to defy what the government says, what is the government going to do? So the patriots that you saw on the screen, they were peacefully protesting, even though they did a gridlock, right? And they were honking their horns and, making their presence known because they don't want to be in lockdown anymore. Now, there was no police there. I didn't see any police. What if there would have been police there? How things would have gone? Do you think that it would have been as peaceful? Now, let's say that they plan another one. Will the major there, would she have the police out there ready to receive all those protesters and make sure that they don't have a gridlock? How could they become violent? Or we would see something like happen in Virginia, when the governor there wanted to ban the guns. So even though there was a lot of people there, it was peaceful. Nothing happened. Everybody went home. No injuries or no arrests or anything like that. Is that something that we could see now, in Michigan or any other place? But let's remember, if there's food shortages and people don't want to be locked down anymore, it can turn ugly very quickly, which now is something that I'm going to leave. The last thing that I'm going to do is play this clip from the Representative Thomas Massie and what he said. Here it is.
On your free iHeartRadio app, you can take the show with you wherever you're allowed to travel, wherever the king has given you papers to go. Maybe in Lewis County, Kentucky, I don't know, but that's where we're going to go next with U.S. Congressman Thomas Massie from Kentucky's 4th District. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Tom. I recognize the song you played as the lead-in. Was that "Don't Get Me Down"?
Yeah, Don't Bring Me Down. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I might bring your listeners down after they hear what I have to say today.
Yeah, it's pretty scary stuff. And I heard you on Glenn Beck yesterday talking about food shortages and, unprecedented actions are going to bring about unprecedented results and unintended consequences here shortly.
Yeah, and that's because our supply line is brittle. And these processing plants, like much of industrial America right now, are shutting down because of absentees, which has been exacerbated by the unemployment program that the federal government has instituted, plus the $1,200 checks that are about to hit, plus some of the regulations that the states have put in place, the governors. So what's happening, Tom, is there are at least 6 giant meat processing plants that are just shut down. They're in Iowa, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and one of these places processes 1,900 cattle a day, just to give you an idea of what we're grappling with here. And so 1,900 cattle a day that were going into the U.S. food supply or not going into the U.S. food supply, that just represents one of these processing plants. And what I'm telling people, and Tom, I hope I am wrong, and I hope the conditions that I'm going to describe don't happen, but if we don't change policy, I'm afraid they are going to happen. I think you're going to see farmers go bankrupt. I think you're going to see shortages at the supermarket. And worst of all, these videos you've seen of milk being poured out at the dairies.
Yeah.
It's one thing to see the milk poured out. It's another thing when and I'm afraid you're going to eventually see this, YouTubes of cattle and hogs being euthanized and incinerated or buried while we have shortages in the supermarket. And you talk about civil unrest when people start seeing that, and it's all because of our brittle food supply, our supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
So, and one other final thing about what we're grappling with here in the food supply chain, the dairies, the reason you see them pouring out milk, it's not because there's not demand for milk in the supermarket. The demand has doubled in the supermarket. The problem is half the supply chain was geared to supply school lunches and restaurants, where they get the cheese not labeled individually with the calories on it, but in a big tote, right? And those outlets aren't there anymore. Nobody in the dairy industry is going to buy more equipment to blow mold, the gallon jugs and the other types of containers that you get in the supermarket, or to package more cheese. In fact, they're having a hard time getting the labor to show up to even to run the machines that they do have, but they're not going to buy new machines. So just tying this all together, when dairies are losing money on milk, for a while they can pour out the milk, but eventually they sell the cows into the beef market, which is going to further depress if you're a beef farmer, that's going to further depress the price that you see at the sale ring, because that market's going to be flooded with the dairy cows, which those dairies, they'll sell those cows at any price. There's no low number on that. There's no bottom on that because they have to get rid of them. They can't afford to feed them and pour out the milk. So this is the picture that I'm painting. It is serious. I used the word civil unrest in our conference call yesterday with the ag secretary and with my other congressman, because I just don't think they understand what is coming, and it's coming quicker than you think. I would say 4 weeks away. So I'm trying to get people's attention to deal with this issue. I also heard on the conference call from other congressmen that some farmers are plowing under crops or pulling up crops because they weren't going to have the labor to harvest them. And so it doesn't make sense to go ahead and, spend all the effort and money in growing crops that will never be harvested. And the conference call, the problem is my colleagues are talking about how to write checks to farmers to keep the farmers whole. You can write all the checks you want. It doesn't make food show up on a table.
Right.
And this is what I'm trying to tell them. And then they're saying, well, one of my colleagues says, asked the USDA, what's your emergency plan? If, when all the meat packers eventually shut down, or let's say if 70% of them shut down, and they didn't really have an emergency plan. So what I urge...
So you heard it, right? It's no longer a conspiracy. It's no longer a far-fetched thought. Now that the congressman has come out and said, or the representative, congressman, has come out and said that the same scenario we've talked about, now it's a reality. And it's something you must be prepared for. If it's not just in Michigan, it's anywhere throughout the United States. But anyways, my name is Jose Prado, Amendment Survival, and remember, always ready. Hello everybody, my name is Jose Prado, Amendment Survival, and I wanted to introduce to you my very first book, Preppers Secrete Cache. You can go to www.preppersecretcache.com, or you can click the link below and order it from there. But hurry, we only have a limited amount of copies that we're giving away for free. All we need your help with is the shipping. So again, my name is Jose Prado, Amendment Survival, and remember, always ready.
The Man-Made Survival Show.